And now, Kyle and Steven present another episode of the Go F Yourself podcast. It's Fix. Really? Well, that's embarrassing. The Go Fix Yourself podcast.
Welcome to the Go Fix Yourself podcast. We are fixing our worldview one conversation at a time. And today we're very excited because we have Joel Loosli, founder and owner of the Alaska Clothing Company. Welcome on, man.
Thanks for having me, you guys. This is awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're stoked. I know we've known each other for a while, but this is one of those ones where like Kyle's not in the know. He's not as cool as me. Sometimes.
I'm finding out I don't have any friends.
Yeah.
This podcast is proving it.
It's funny because, like, you know, sometimes we'll have people on that he knows and I don't, and I know. And then there's, you know, the few that, like, we both know. And so this is one where you don't know. So it's like, you know, not only do I get to learn more about you in this podcast, but also Kyle gets to learn a whole new person.
It's more of an interrogation.
Lucky you, Kyle.
Yeah. So I'm going to be asking some hard-hitting questions today.
Okay, good. I prepped for a couple hours.
Like what, Kyle?
Before.
Where'd you get the whiskey from?
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
That, you know, if you've been following this podcast for a while, you know, we don't have whiskey on that much. We mostly drink beers. But Joel was kind enough to bring some damn whiskey.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky enough to have my lady in my life that works for a distributor, and one of the brands she has is Jefferson's, and we had the head distiller up here last summer, and he brought a few bottles to sign, and there was
Is this a signed bottle?
this particular one isn't. No, I didn't.
Okay.
I'm not going to let you guys try that.
I was gonna say,
it tastes a little
I was
different.
like, damn, wow, did he just really use the nice shit on us?
But no, this one's a cool one. It's called Ocean's Rye, double barrel rye whiskey. This particular voyage, they have all different voyages, which like take different paths. This one is voyage 26, it looks like. So from what I understand, voyage 26, it crosses the equator like 4 times. It hits like
So they're just like
several
they're just like
different
in a
continents.
ship being like, well, guys, like we need this for the marketing. This
We
is
said
really,
we're going to cross the equator. Like, I know we don't need to, but we got it.
absolutely has nothing to do with the taste of the whiskey, but we just need to say it. So we want to be honest.
It does. So, you know, when it's sitting in the hold, right, it's
I guess that's true.
The
Okay.
temperature's changing as
Yeah.
they get into different climates.
Spoke too soon.
Which makes the wood, you know, shrink and also expand, which gets the whiskey into the wood and then back out again. So, and then it shakes it, and it just, you know, it really does add a lot to it.
Man, we're already getting fixed, dude. Like,
Yeah.
look at that. We're already learning shit.
We're so ignorant is the problem.
Okay, so let's get on with it, man. So we said the title, but like we say with everybody, you know, my parents listen to this podcast. They live in New York. They don't know the people that I know. And so, like we like to say, because they listen to every episode, we like to say that, you know, tell them who you are, right? Tell my parents, Rick and Carol. You
Hi,
can
Rick.
use them.
Hi, Carol.
They do. They're like, that Ed Washington, he's such a nice boy. Like, they don't.
Just because they said their name, you know?
Yeah. My mom.
bar's low.
My mom's not Southern. That's another thing, too. I have different accents for my mom. She sounds like a Simpsons character. Anyway, but yeah, tell them who you are and what you do right now.
All right. Well, so like you mentioned before, my name is Joel Loosli, founder of Alaska Clothing Company. Actually, I just recently went through a name change. It was Claim Jumper AK since the very beginning, since like 2013. For the formalized business, been doing it actually since 2009. But Claim Jumper AK was a name that when I had a business partner when I started this, he kind of came up with, my buddy Marcus, and I liked it. It was kind of an ode to the, you know, Yosemite Sam, old school, you know, 49er.
Gold digging.
Claim jumper type of thing.
Right.
But, you know, everybody was just like, oh, that restaurant? Yeah, I've been to that restaurant. That's cool, Claim Jumper. There's apparently some restaurant down in the States. It's called Claim Jumper.
Yeah, I Googled
Fuck
it.
them.
You
know what?
They were late to the game.
Infringing on my
Yeah.
copyrights and stuff for food. Yeah, just last year I changed the name over. I don't know where it came to me or why. I don't remember the instance, but just thought Alaska Clothing Company. And, sometimes it's just
The
so basic.
simple things.
But, the Anchorage Brewing Company,
Yeah.
Alaska Brewing
Brewing,
Company.
yeah.
I thought, well, surely somebody has that. There's somebody that, created the business and has just been sitting on it, or they never hit it big or never did anything with it. But sure enough, I did a search for the business license. Nothing there, and nothing for the websites, nothing on Instagram. I mean, smaller kind of.
That really surprises me
iterations.
because you probably know this too. Is like when you're like, oh, I have this new business in mind, which I do more than not. And actually, people listening will know I have probably well over 100 domains in my Google domain folder because I pay for these things every fucking month.
You
Because
got
I'm
me,
like,
right.
this one idea years ago, I was like, hey, this one might be a good idea. And I'm like, is it available? Buy it. Because I have had
Somebody
those ideas.
will want it.
I've had those ideas and I've been like, oh shit, it's taken. And it's funny that you were like alaskaclothingco.com. Like, is that what it is?
Surely, yeah.
Yeah. I was like, that in my head, I would be like, if you would have told me that before you did it, I would have been like, that's taken.
Right.
Guaranteed.
Well, so, I had to figure out it was AK Clothing Co.
Oh.
And then for Instagram, it was spelled out Alaska Clothing, and then Co was, or CO, as opposed to company. So, you shorten things up, you add AK or
Yeah.
something to it, and generally you can come up with something. But I thought that one for sure would have been taken, but
Nothing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Did it feel like the gold rush when you found that though? Like I know the feeling of going on Google and like GoDaddy back in the day, and you're just like, please let it be available. And then of 9.5 times out of 10, it's always taking. You're like, somebody is not even utilizing this. It's a dead website.
Like when Kyle, because how we met is because when we had Cut and Caliber, we were doing trade shows. Willowa,
the holiday thing that they
we
did.
also did like Anchorage Museum together. That was a while ago. And then but I remember when we were starting out, we went through a list of like 90 plus names because we were just like writing shit down and we're like checking. Nope, not available. Like writing it down, checking. And then finally we were in fucking Tidal Wave Books and we go down the gun aisle because we're just, we're just
As
roaming.
Alaskan.
Right, because we're big gun
Alaskans
dudes.
do.
Yeah. No, we were just like, we were just brainstorming, coming up with ideas and talking about what this, this business could be. And we didn't have a name for it.
Yeah.
So we're running
Cut
up and down.
machine gun.
Yeah.
Cut and machine gun.
Knives and guns.
We literally, Kyle saw Cut,
knivesandguns.com.
and then he saw like Caliber, and he was like on like book covers, and he's like, "What about Cut and Caliber?" We're like, you know what? Let's just check it. Whatever, man. And then it was available, so we're like, let's just fucking do it. Bye.
Yeah.
So yeah, kudos to you for getting Alaska Clothing Company. I'm a little jealous.
It was
You can't
wild.
tell.
Well, so I was able to change the name over real easily on Instagram. No problem. Did it within just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Facebook met a completely different universe.
Yeah, well-
I've been fighting them for 9 months, and they keep telling me no. And
Are you still fighting them?
yeah,
Oh my god.
and it's a losing battle, unfortunately, because there's a company out there that's actually called Alaska Clothing Company. And if you look at the content, it looks like some overseas operation that's selling like NASCAR hoodies.
Oh yeah, of course.
And M&M stuff, anything American, and they have the name, and so that's basically preventing me from doing it. But they gave me all these rules, and they said, well, as long as you can provide us with all of these things, we should be able to change the name over. Problem is, you don't get to talk to the same person. It's this cut and paste response, and you're like, no, no, what you're saying doesn't make sense.
Damn it.
They've told me twice that, oh yeah, okay, we got everything that you sent, and no problem, we're going to change it over. Still hasn't happened.
Damn.
So
Facebook can be a little fickle bitch.
Yeah.
I found out.
Yeah.
And another thing too is like, how this is my own little thing I just want recorded and out there in the ether is everybody's coming after TikTok nowadays because of all this bullshit,
Spying.
spying on us or whatever. I don't care. Like, but like one of the
Take your
things,
info.
one of
Carry
the
a
things
phone
that
in your
like,
pocket.
one of the things that like they're saying, they're like, TikTok is showing Americans dumb pranks and dumb videos, and they're making us dumb, and they're showing people in China like success and all this stuff, and then I was like, man, fuck you. First off, I'm not seeing all that shit. I'm seeing like learning on TikTok. Where I am seeing the dumb pranks and funny bullshit is on Facebook. So I was like, I have a bone to pick with Facebook, man. So F them.
Yeah, no, I'm not happy about it, but I didn't want to have to start all over again because I can't remember, something over 3,000 followers. Woo! But I just
No, I
didn't
get
want to
it.
start from scratch, and so I just left it as is. Like, whatever, it's still tied to Instagram, so if I post on there, it'll still post to
Yeah,
and
leave
it's
it.
just a name. I mean, people aren't buying it for the name; they're buying it for the cool designs, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's talk about the designs, and let's talk about your journey as a designer, because I'm a designer first, really. Before I was videoing, I was doing similar to what you're doing, very different. So I was working for Alaska licensed merchandise supplier who is now no longer in business. So it's almost perfect that you're like stepping into this. It did get sold to Lower 48, so they're still supplying Alaskan. I mean, it's all the Fred Meyers and car stuff, but it's just out of state, which is unfortunate.
Right.
So it was a perfect time for someone to come in. But talk about your path as a designer, how you got, going on that stuff, and then how you started like figuring out,
The clothing world.
Yeah, putting it on shirts and hats and patterns and all this stuff. So
well,
take the floor.
as my grandma likes to remind me, ever since she could remember, I was always, picking up a pencil or a crayon or something and always doing art. And my mom always says, "Oh, where's Joel? Always probably in his room and he's drawing or something." And sure enough, I usually was, if I wasn't playing with G.I. Joes or something, riding my BMX bike or having dirt clod fights. Back when you could probably do that.
Not anymore.
But so,
Kyle and I still do.
Yeah.
We still get a little crazy.
Cool. Well, hit me up sometime.
It's
been a while since I
Three of us out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Hey, come on over, Joe.
I could take a dirt clod to the face like nobody.
Like a pro.
But yeah, so just, always artistic, always doing art stuff, taking art classes in junior high school. And then it was a couple of years after I had graduated high school from West. I moved down to Tacoma because my wife at the time was going to PLU, and she kind of gently pushed me in the direction of, hey, you've always been good at art. Why don't you take a look at the Art Institute? And so took a look at it, and, they make you draw a picture of something and say, oh, my God, you're amazing. You need to be here. No, they don't do that.
I was gonna say,
I would love to go do that. Just fail miserably.
We'll take your money.
Yeah.
What if you?
This is abstract, guys. You guys probably don't understand.
Yeah.
This is my interpretation of Mickey Mouse.
Yeah. Yep. So you joined in the Art Institute down there?
Yeah. So I went, and as an illustrator, I like to draw. I could look at something like a photograph or what reference, and I could draw it, make it look just like it was. I wasn't a whole lot into doing abstract stuff. And, a lot of the times, too, people are like, oh, I'm going to be a children's book illustrator. That's kind of what everybody does. But quickly found out that I was, nowhere near as good as I thought I was compared to some of the other talent that was in the building. And I was like, man, there's no way that they're going to pick me, as an illustrator. And that's the thing I found out was a lot of the times, it's the big name illustrators that are kick-ass that get all the good gigs.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be kind of doing this.
Like the Kyle Reddings.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My abstract art.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A lot of phallus-shaped things that I drew. I was good.
That does sound like you.
That's awesome.
All right.
So then I had taken an elective course. I took some photography because I enjoy that. And then I took this class called, I can't remember actually what it was called, something to do with graphics. And I was learning this new program, and it was called Adobe Illustrator. And I was like, ooh, what's this? And I fucking hated it.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Same.
stand it.
Didn't like it either.
I didn't get it because as somebody who draws, you can kind of just start wherever you want. I feel like I'll start with the eyes and go from there. This, you really had to have it mapped out because I've never been somebody that,
Vector, baby.
oh, dude,
Yeah.
just couldn't do it. I never, the teachers always wanted you to sketch out stuff and kind of have things kind of mapped out, and they wanted to see your journey, kind of like a mathematician would want to see. Oh, we want to show your work.
Show the work, yeah.
Like I just never did it. I had an idea and I would just go for it. And so I never really had anything to back it up. So that was really difficult for me to understand how it worked. But just the more I stuck at it, the more I got to kind of understand, this is starting to make sense. I get it. And eventually, at the end of the semester, I was like, this is pretty cool. I think I'm going to take another semester of this.
Yeah. It is interesting because I hated Illustrator at first too. I was like, I knew Photoshop pretty damn well, but I was making all my posters, everything like t-shirts on Photoshop, and then moving over to Illustrator, night and day. It was like, I hate this. This is disgusting. But it took me a few months, and it was the same thing. And then next thing you know, you're getting those hotkeys down, and you're like,
that's
okay,
huge.
all
The
right.
hotkeys are huge.
Yeah, and then and then being a professional, doing it for 8 hours a day, you're like, oh, I'm really fast at this now, and I prefer Illustrator to Photoshop now.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Yeah, so I also took Photoshop too as another side class, just because it helped me manipulate the files just by enlarging them, cropping them, and other stuff.
And just
Exporting
Kyle,
them.
he's not a designer.
Yeah.
so.
I don't know what
These
Photoshop is. Jesus.
These are designer apps.
Yeah.
Maybe you've heard of them. I doubt it.
Yeah,
But
they go on a computer.
yeah.
They're pretty high tech.
Anyway, some people just don't know.
Yeah,
I just had to
some
tell
people
them.
don't get it. It's our life.
Yeah, so I actually ended up changing my major. Well, you can have a focus. So the degree was visual communications, and it was either illustration, graphic design, or advertising. And so I went from illustration over to graphic design.
Oh, okay.
So I had to change the focus for the pieces that I was going to present in my portfolio upon graduation.
Okay. And what were the pieces that you were kind of working on back then? What goes in a portfolio for graduation? I didn't do these classes, so I'm kind of curious.
So, we had all kinds of different classes, and it was in the late '90s, so I'm struggling to recall what some of those were as far as the titles. But there were some classes where they were pretty rudimentary, and I felt like some of the staff there were just doing it to be dicks because they had to do it, and so they had different layers where you had to cut things out and block stuff out, and with the different layers to get it photo ready. Because it was super old school, and so there were some dumb classes like that, but there was also a couple of really cool classes that like typography, and basically all you did was trace typography.
That would be, man, that gets me going, dude. I don't know what it is about typography, but calligraphy and typography gets me just rock hard.
Does it have to do something with
Not really.
letters?
Quarter chub.
Yeah. Maybe close. Yeah, we're close.
Not
there.
6 to midnight.
Yeah,
though.
not 6 to midnight.
No,
that's
nope.
for sure. No.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But that seemed really tedious, but I have a lot of patience, and it was pretty cool because after a while, I can then still to this day, there's certain fonts that I can recreate just with my hand, which is kind of a
neat
cool
trick.
thing to do.
Yeah, that's a
pull
party.
that out at
Parties,
parties. Hey,
yeah.
Anybody want to see some cool typography?
Yeah.
Helvetica, anybody? Helvetica Times New Roman.
Helvetica is the most readable font known to man.
I have
That's why
heard
And
I use
that.
women.
That's why I
And
use it every week, man. I use it at least a couple times a week. Okay, so you're in school, you're doing this graphic design stuff, you're in Washington.
Yep.
How'd you find your way back to Alaska?
Had a couple of kids, young kids, mom and pop on both sides of the family were still there, brother, sister. Just made sense. Hey, this is going to be a lot easier if we get some help
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and don't have to pay for it. So
Trust me, I know.
we came home.
I don't have any kids, but I know.
Yeah.
He's read books about it. So.
Yeah.
And, Alaska, unfortunately, and probably still wasn't quite the hotbed for graphic design at the time.
Yeah.
And so nobody was screaming for, to have me come in for an interview, and there weren't any postings. So I went back to just something I had natural skill at, which is customer service. And worked at Nordstrom, good old Nordstrom. Worked in the men's furnishing, selling ties and suits and dress
this
shirts
is where
and
the fashion-
cufflinks and stuff. Yeah, I
fashion-
kind of
Really?
always, I kind of always liked fashion a little bit. I was never like Mr. Fashion guy,
Sure.
but I just kind of there's something about it that I liked.
The old Fifth Avenue, Nordstrom's downstairs.
Yeah.
Was it downstairs at the time?
Yeah.
Bottom floor?
Yep.
What year was this?
This would have been 2001.
Okay.
2001. Yep.
This is before I even moved to Alaska.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still in New York.
Still in New York.
Yeah.
2005 is when I moved up here.
Okay.
Okay, so you're working at Nordstrom. You had a couple kids. You're back up in Alaska.
Not doing
Not
any
getting
art,
any-
not using my degree like
Yeah.
most people don't.
Well, and it's funny because we had Mike Kirkpatrick on here a couple weeks ago, and basically he was saying the same thing. He's like, I had this kind of design, experience, but he's like, nobody wanted that up here.
It was old school design.
Lower 48,
Yeah.
lower 48, big time. Like people were like, looking for it left and right. But up here, we always say like we're a little bit behind the times. We're, a couple years behind.
Sure.
And so, our marketing agencies weren't doing what the marketing agencies down in low 48 were doing or whatever. And so, so you're working Nordstrom. What happens next? Like, how do you get it back into the design world?
It doesn't come for a while. So being just doing my job at Nordstrom, had an insurance guy come by, bought a tie, really liked me, thought I was cool. He was like, hey, you might be good at selling insurance, sell you on the sizzle. Look how much money you can make. It's an awesome career. Look at my paycheck. Isn't life grand?
You got Wolf of Wall Street?
Wall Street, not his boss. So he got me because the boss is always like, hey, when you find people out there that you think might be able to do this, you have them come see me. And then he really, he's from Philadelphia.
What did Jonah Hill say? He's like, you show me how much you make and I'll quit my job and work for you.
Yeah.
No, so he shows me his paycheck and you're like, oh my God.
That was a real tactic. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I was like, I want that paycheck, especially having young kids, right? And you're like, let's do this. And then you find out it's 100% commission and it's not quite the way that they build it to be. Yeah. And so you kind of are like, well, because I had taken all these exams and had to study my ass off and I've got all this licensure, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to be here, but I want to continue to use this because I didn't want that to be a waste of time.
Right.
So then I was able to find a job at a local credit union doing the same thing, but I actually got a salary plus commissions.
Okay.
Plus I got insurance, all the stuff that you need for a growing family,
for
right?
Kids, yeah.
So just kept doing that. And, I didn't do a whole lot of art at the time. You don't have a whole lot of time for art and personal time when you have 2 young kids. So that kind of went to the wayside and really kind of just built up whether I knew it or not. Like I didn't know it, but like there was like this container that was just bubbling with all this creativity. And it was just like sitting there and collecting all of this creative energy that I wasn't using. Mm-hmm. And kind of fast forward, we ended up getting a divorce, splitting up time with the kids. Now I've got 1 week on, 1 week off. I've got some creative time, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so started to start playing around with some designs, and kind of really what kicked everything off was I sat down and I was like, okay, Alaska has such, in my opinion, poor design, especially at that time. That was like 2009 or so. Everything that was kind of pushed on us was that just super cheesy Alaskan, 907,
sure,
just super basic
kind
stuff, 574. But it was geared towards tourists, and I get that. But I was like, I live here. Surely we can do better. Let's create something that's kind of cool, classic, that people that live here actually don't mind wearing and not thinking that you're a tourist. And so I sat down at the computer, pulled up Illustrator, pulled up a basic shape of the state of Alaska, and I was like, And I must have thought about it for maybe 2 minutes, and then I just came up with this idea where the state of Alaska kind of started at the panhandle and it went in a radial pattern, and it kind of just did the six Alaskas, and it created this really cool negative space in the middle. And I just sat back and I just kind of stared at the screen, and I thought, surely this can't be it, because I did it in just a couple of minutes, but something about it was super impactful, and it brought me back to something I learned at the Art Institute. One of my teachers kind of talked about what they called, and this is a loose translation, the Gestalt principle, where sometimes less is more. Mm-hmm. And so I stared at it for maybe 5 minutes, and I was like, man, I just really like this. I like what it is. It's basic. And I started showing people, and a lot of people didn't quite get it at first because they're looking at that negative space in the middle. Oh, is this a flower? Is it a pinwheel? It's kind of cool. What is it?
Like, no, idiot.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay, it's Alaska.
Are you dumb?
Jeez.
With that customer service, that's how you sold them.
Right. Yeah. No, and then as soon as they saw it, they're like, oh, shit, that's really cool. Mm-hmm. I like that. That's awesome. And so I did what most people did back in the day. You're like, okay, now what do I do with it? I can sell it as stickers, hoodies, or T-shirts. Mm-hmm. That was basically it, right?
All three.
That's what everybody does. And so I did had a booth down at the Saturday downtown market
Mm-hmm.
and was selling those and a couple of like prints and things. And so it was just, that's how I was starting off, just slinging my basic design.
Yeah.
And that's actually where I met my fiance. She was down there. She was making glass fused art, and she was tinkering around with stuff. And so my buddy one day was like, "Hey, Joel, you mind if I share your booth? I've got some cool sculptures that I want to sell." And I was like, "Sure, man. I could use the company.
Yeah.
Use the restroom.
It's a
or
long
whatever."
day. Yeah.
Oh man, it is.
Help set up, help break down.
Right.
We've done it once. I did it once, and I was like, nah.
Yeah, we did it a couple times, and
I did it once.
I did it,
That was it.
at least once.
Maybe we just because it
Yeah.
was like separate. I don't think you were there for me.
Yeah, well, I think we went.
sounded
I
bad.
was not
That
there for
sounded
you.
Never there for me.
It
Yeah.
sounded really bad. It was like I don't think
You
we
got
were there
today.
I don't think we were there at the same time.
Yeah.
You
So-
weren't there for me. Fuck.
Do I need to leave the room
That
for a
was-
minute? You guys need to work some
fuck
shit
you.
out.
That was deep. So you started kind of like designing, like you said, you found this extra free time with recent life events, and so you're playing around with some designs, and you realized it took you 2 minutes to create something. So right there, I kind of feel like it already puts doubt in your head if it's good.
Oh yeah,
right.
for
And
sure,
so-
big
Like,
time.
surely
I
can't be that easy.
That can't be good.
Yeah, you
right.
can relate.
So how do you make that jump from like this isn't good because it took me 2 minutes to I'm going to print this and try to sell it, have people give me money
Good question
for it?
I ask for a lot of feedback just because I want to hear what people think. But
Sure.
honestly, I mean, sure, I give a shit, but if I know something's good, I'm
Right.
going to go ahead with it anyway. But lots of times where people are like, yeah, I don't get it, or that's just not cool. And I've done it, and it's been, some of the people's favorites things that I've done.
Mm-hmm.
Just for me, I know when I've kind of landed on something
Right.
more often than not. And
Yeah, because
so,
how do you know you're asking the right people? Like, I
Right.
mean, the feedback. I mean, anytime you're trying to like validate an idea or a business or anything like that, I mean, you're
because these
going to
weren't
get
designers.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And they don't know what they're talking about. It was obviously 6 Alaskas. Right. I could see it right now, But like you have to be very careful, I feel like, when you're asking people advice because like you have the yes men and you have the people that don't know what they're talking about.
And
so
the
it's
yes
like
women.
yes
Right.
people.
There we go.
Sorry.
Persons.
Yeah. And so it's like I always hesitate when I want to run something by certain people. Like I
Sure.
can run stuff by Steven and get a honest feedback, but I'm probably not going to ask my wife because she's always going to say it's good
Right.
for the
Right,
most part.
right.
Yeah, very supportive. That's what they're supposed
and
to do.
Exactly. And it's not a fault, but you got to be careful
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you got to know when you're getting their true feedback.
So
on
your
stuff.
confidence was coming from like purely within.
Yeah. No,
You're
I mean,
like,
I knew
I
I had
know.
landed on something, and I couldn't
Yeah.
necessarily put my finger on it, but I was like,
Sure.
for me, that just is solid.
Spoke
and
to
it
you.
spoke to me, and I'm going to run with it.
Yeah.
But there was enough people, too, that thought it was solid, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to just try and do something with
Yeah.
it, right?
Smart. It was smart.
Yeah. Was it like, I mean, I don't know if you want to say exactly, but like financial startup, like was it a chunk of money that you had to do to get this going, or was it like kind of just enough to kind of sample it out, or did you kind of dive in like, here's my savings account? I'm
Yeah,
gonna-
luckily,
What
I
was your
mean-
level of confidence?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you could be confident all you want, but if you can't do anything with it
Right.
because
Yeah.
your hands are tied
Did you
financially.
go all in, spending on the hoodies, the prints, the stickers?
Well, so I was
Started
working.
slow.
I was working at Kinley's, kind of moonlighting there at
Oh,
night.
okay, yeah.
And so doing the bank by day still.
Oh,
And
damn.
So,
You were a busy boy.
yeah, I mean, I've always had multiple jobs. I usually got 2 or 3 jobs at all times. It's just I've always been that way.
Mhm.
And
Even
it doesn't
now?
it doesn't bother
Even
me.
now?
Yeah.
Goodness gracious,
Yeah.
dude.
Just got my hands in all kinds of
He's a
pies.
busybody.
I worked
Yeah.
3 hours today, and I'm like, I'm tired. I'm done.
When is retirement, by the way?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm gonna move to France.
Yeah.
But I think part of it too, it was also coupled with this, like I said, this kind of silo that had been building and percolating this whole time that I had access to. And I was like, man, like now that I have this time, I just felt super creative. And I just felt like I took the bottle cap off and it just started spewing out everywhere. And it was just amazing. I was happy to be doing it again. It felt really good. I mean, yeah, things were going
You're just
great.
chasing that feeling.
Yeah.
Love that.
And then, so I just kind of kept it going on the side. I was doing little pop-ups and things here and small things. And then one of my good buddies, Marcus, he was really impressed with some of the stuff that I had done. And he's a kind of a creative person too, but more on the tech side, really good photographer, really good with web stuff. And him and I have just always really gotten along. He did some serving and part-time managing at Kinley's too, and he knew several people that I knew. And we got together one day, and I had taken a bunch of pictures on my iPhone, and I was like, man, I need to do
iPhone
something with this.
4.
It was an iPhone 4.
Oh, lucky
Nailed
guess.
it.
Lucky
Yeah.
guess.
And I was like, I got to do something with these. They're just sitting on my phone, but these are too cool. And that was kind of when Instagram came out too, and they had some filters, and I was like, man, that
Sepia,
makes this look even cooler.
Yeah,
Like,
vintage.
whoa. Yeah, Hudson and what are all
Oh
those?
my gosh, I couldn't even tell you. That was
Those filters?
Yeah.
So I actually ended up having to self-publish my own photos because I wanted to do something with them. But I'm not going to be able to call a big publisher in New York City and say, hey, I've got these really cool pictures on my iPhone that you should see.
Yeah. I'll airdrop 'em.
Alaska's amazing.
Yeah.
So I self-published that, and that was pretty cool.
That was the Alaska.
My
My Alaska.
It was not part of the Spanish community. I was thinking my Alaska as in my Alaska because I live here.
Yeah.
Spelled MI Alaska, and it was also I for iPhone, obviously. And so that was my Alaska, and I was just using the iPhone 14 at the time. But I mean, they were pretty stunning images. I actually, believe it or not, was able to get them into Costco. I had to approach Costco, find who the media person is, send them a sample, a letter why I think they should carry it and why it would sell here in Alaska and this and that. And holy shit, I can't remember if they wrote back or emailed back. I think we had email at that time.
Damn.
And they're like, yeah, we think we'd like to have that.
So what were these pictures of? Like
Naked women.
Yeah.
Alaskan
they were just naked
strip clubs.
selfies.
Yeah. It was mostly places in Alaska, like outdoor photos that I could get to by foot. So it wasn't anything like Nome or, anywhere remote. It was just, Fairbanks and Talkeetna.
So like landscapes
and Cantwell,
or like
landscapes, Anchorage. Yeah, snow. Hilltop hiking, plants. I could definitely show you lots of pictures, but it was a pretty solid collection, and I guess it was good enough to get into Costco.
Yeah,
so that was
dope.
a confidence
I didn't
booster.
know that.
Yeah,
I would imagine that's a confidence
pretty cool.
booster.
Without any, so you were using these filters on them, right? I mean, that was kind of how you're getting
on some of them. Yeah.
Were you doing any kind of like manipulation of, like you have basic controls on there? And I don't know if you did on iPhone 4, but like you can mess with
basic.
exposure.
It wasn't going into Photoshop. I wasn't layering. I wasn't doing. This was just everything, and it was my phone, my Alaska. It was
Interesting.
everything that was created on my phone.
So you didn't go in and pop up the highlights or take down the shadows.
I might have. I don't. At that time, I just remember it being filters.
Yeah.
You couldn't actually tweak the individual things at that time.
So kids, let that be a lesson for you. You can get into Costco with your iPhone 4. Maybe. You don't need a $5,000 camera.
Everything's
gotta have an
retro.
eye.
It's probably coming back around again at some point.
Yeah,
so hold
yeah.
on to your phone.
I have my
iPhone
original iPhone 3G
Oh, wow.
Yeah, nice.
in a box.
I held one. I held an iPhone 4 in my hand the other day, and then I held my iPhone 11 up to it, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like it's so
Isn't it
tiny.
weird?
Yeah.
It feels like a little a little cool. I was like, I kind of want to go back to this.
Right.
I know mine
It
was
felt
the
good.
metal back with the black plastic
Yeah.
piece on the lower half.
Yeah.
Like, it was weird.
It is
Yeah.
weird.
Anyway, so
Classic.
so you were self-publishing. You were kind of doing the Saturday market, selling these prints. You have a book in Costco, which is fucking cool because not many people can say that shit.
Yeah.
And
Got
then,
a cool letter too from the Library of Congress.
Really?
Whoa.
When you get a book that gets like published or whatever,
by Costco.
no, by anybody.
Oh,
I
by-
think. Yeah. So whether
Oh.
you self-publish or a publisher publishes you, I got this letter. I didn't know I was going to get it, and it shows up, and it's this official letter from the federal government saying that my Alaska is now part of the Library of Congress.
Whoa.
There's been
shit.
some interesting books that have gotten that letter.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I did it, Mom.
I didn't know they
I did
did
it.
that.
Yeah.
I don't. Wow. Okay.
Maybe. I mean, I just assumed everybody got it. Maybe
I've never
I'm
heard that
special.
before.
Maybe you
And
were
I know,
a very special person.
I would say I know a bunch of people who have self-published books and stuff. Even one I just finished reading. But like I've never heard of them actually getting a letter from the
I
Library.
don't remember
of Congress.
where that is. I know I've got it somewhere, but I have no idea.
hang
where
that
it
shit
is.
up, man. That's
I
pretty
need to
dope.
Frame it.
Are you
put it
sure
in.
you didn't get scammed?
Right.
You know, they said, just send us a few $1,000s and we'll seal this
You're
in.
pre-qualified
Yeah.
for a letter from Congress.
Yeah. Okay, so you have this book, you have these prints. What are you doing now? Like,
that was the question. Okay,
right.
now what?
What's next?
I played this radial design to death. It's been a couple of years. The juices are still flowing. I got the book going. What else are we doing? And so I went back to the Adobe Illustrator, sat down with the shape of Alaska, started kind of playing around with it, moving it around, and then I did this kind of like, they've got that flat edge on the state shape. Mm-hmm. Well, you couldn't put them back to back because the pen handle would start to cross. Yeah. So then I flipped it and I put them that way.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of repeated it in this pattern. So it was basically, I guess...
Yeah.
Whatever.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like
kind of like almost like a houndstooth.
That's
right?
exactly a husky tooth is what it is.
Oh, okay. Very good.
So so I did it in the black and white, and generally that's how I design everything is in black and white because it's just really solid. I like clean lines.
Interesting.
Everything it just pops.
So you start black and white first
for everything
before even adding any color in.
Yep.
Oh, see, man, that's interesting. I'm like, I have to find the right color palette before I even start.
Oh, wow.
So that's an interesting like creative process there.
And that was one of the classes that I took. And it was kind of that Gestalt principle class. It was
go simple.
This guy, he must have been 85.
Yeah.
White hair, moved slow, and one of the requirements for the Art Institute was that the staff had to also be working in the field too. So at that, and I don't know if they ever did, if that was a requirement towards the end, now that they're not around anymore. But so they all had to be working in the field. And one of the cool things about that too was that the Art Institute helped with placement after graduation. Because a lot of people are like, hey, I had this kid in my class. He'd be kick-ass, maybe not where I work, but I'll talk to my associate,
Sure.
get them hooked up with, really cool like Blizzard games back in the day. I mean, people getting jobs doing all kinds of cool work for them. Like, and that was the thing. I was like, man, I'm not getting that kind of job.
Yeah.
It would be cool too, but I mean, there were some talented people and they were mind-blowing.
I feel that.
But, I found a niche in Alaska. And I came up with this husky tooth type of pattern. And I could do it in different colors, too. So the first black and white classic Houndstooth, worked great. But then I was like, okay, if I'm going to put this on something, what can I put it on? Hey, you know what? I used to work at Nordstrom. I used to sell ties. I used to sell,
pocket squares.
Yeah, pocket squares, cufflinks, and things like that. And so that kind of got me thinking, too. So that design went on scarves, women's scarves, and men's ties.
Interesting. I do remember seeing your stuff probably for one of the first times. And I think it was Anchorage Museum. At least I remember talking to you for the first time, like there, when we were doing the trade shows. And I was like, this guy's doing the same thing we are doing. Like, we're trying to up Alaska's style.
Yep.
Right? Because we were like, that was kind of our shtick was like, Alaska is stuck in the past. Let's bring it to the future where we're living, baby.
Yeah.
But like, I remember going to your stuff
there.
and I'm like, all right, he's got ties. He's got some cool like scarves. Like he's doing, it feels like you were, trying to do this similar thing up Alaska style.
We can do better up here, and I'm going to do my part to help.
I like that.
Make it happen.
Yeah,
for sure. That was my motivation.
Yeah. Did you ever get any, like, the thing I would consider is if I heard you had this like houndstooth, husky tooth kind of design, do you have any pieces of clothing that you've gotten made specifically that no one else can have, like a jacket that's husky tooth pattern, or like the inside of a suit that is that?
Yeah.
Or women's yoga pants.
All of these
things.
Okay. All of these things. So, again, back when I first started getting into the biz, 2009, it seemed like, everybody had the t-shirts and the hoodies.
Right.
That's what everybody was doing. And so I was trying to think outside of the box, like, okay, I got to be able to differentiate myself from every other person that's doing this, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody's making their own scarves. Nobody's making their own ties. This is something I'm going to pursue and take a look at. And, another cool thing, right? I went from selling ties at Nordstrom to selling my ties to Nordstrom. I actually was able to get them in the Alaska store before they closed.
Oh, I love that.
Which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Walk somebody through, like, 'cause the biggest thing is I don't know anybody that doesn't think that they could like start a clothing line or like the idea of it. They're just like, I got this great idea. I could make so much money off clothing line.
Yeah.
Like what are like in a nutshell, describe the process of getting, because you got to manufacture, sourcing.
And I would say there's also, I know for a fact there's like some like secrecies that people work really, really hard on getting.
And tell us all of those.
Yeah,
right.
So we like to hear them is what I'm getting to.
And say them on the air for
broad stroke of like clothing company.
Sure. When we were doing Caliber, we were like, all right, let's turn this into a clothing line because like we think it's really cool to have a clothing line.
Right.
And so we met with John from 49th, and he was like, well, he's like, I'm going to give you guys some secrets. He's like, I shouldn't do this, but he's like, I like you guys. And we're like, all right. And then so he gave us a rundown, and he's like, do not tell anybody this. I remember that specifically. Like he ingrained that, and like he
go to Walmart, buy all of the Hanes t-shirts.
yeah. You get some spray paint.
Get an iron.
No, so you don't have to do those, of course, but yeah, I mean, what does it take to start a clothing line and get this stuff made? Because I'm looking at your shirt right now, and if you're watching on YouTube, which you should be, basically you have a Alaska camo print shirt, but it's not just like in the front, you didn't get it screen printed, like you got this custom made.
Yeah. And
like that's something I don't even know how you do.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, when I first was doing this and trying to really build like an actual like fashion line or a brand, it was just the simple screen printing. But the problem is you were having to make it to where you could make money on it. You had to be buying in big quantities. 300, 500, these kinds of things. And I didn't have the money,
Alibaba shit.
Right, trying to raise 2 kids and, get a mortgage and stuff and get out of my crappy apartment in Fairview. No offense to Fairview. Beautiful place, beautiful people. And so, the internet, amazing. Get online.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many hours I spent researching and trying to find places. A little bit of Alibaba.
Yeah.
And basically emailing back and forth and just finding out, people. Okay, these people are responsive. These people aren't having communication issues with me. The products seem to be pretty cool. So you start having to make samples, you send them back and forth, you make tweaks. And, that takes a lot of time, the old R&D and money, because if you're making just one at a time, they're like, oh, yeah, $60, $80, $150 or whatever.
Yeah.
But after I had done the scarves and ties, I really thought, oh, man, what else could I be doing? Like, I started to think big. And so I got prototypes made of, like, shell jackets for skiing and things like that. And they just looked so freaking cool. They looked awesome. And, it's weird because the shape of Alaska isn't a shape that you would associate with being, I can do a lot of cool shit with the shape of Alaska. Right. It's a tough fucking shape.
I would say it's
weird.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre. But I've just somehow been able to figure out how to make it work. And, but yeah, even back then, like in the, early like 2010, 11, 12, they were still asking for large quantities back in those times. And so I had done a small run of winter jackets, some puffy jackets, but their minimum was 300. So I was like, well, can I at least split them up 150 men's, 150 women's in 2 different color schemes? So I was able to do that.
Oh, nice.
And then things just started to happen. They eventually got to places that could do one-offs, which is a lot of what I can do now for some stuff.
Gotcha.
And still have good margins. So like this shirt, for example, I just made one and, I keep one in the shop at the Cove. And if somebody sees it, they're like, that's awesome, but it's not my size. They're like, no problem. Can you wait 2 to 3 weeks? I'll have one for you.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's cool.
But yeah, dye sublimation is where they dye the inks into the fabric, and then they have to cut and sew it together. So it's a little more laborious, and it's a little bit more expensive than screen printing, but it also allows you to do smaller quantities.
Right. And it looks fucking cool as shit.
Yeah, so this particular one, here's my Endor camo. This looks,
little nod, little tip of the hat.
Yeah,
I like that.
A little bit of a Star Wars.
Are you a little nerd?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
well,
okay.
I'm a big sci-fi junkie.
Me too.
So
Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, big time.
Mandalorian.
Big time.
Actually, it's funny. This is a good segue, Steven, so I'm going to applaud myself for this. I saw your recent post on Facebook with the Mandalorian.
On the Northern Lights.
AI generated art.
Yeah.
Which is something, it's funny that I'm you wanted to talk about this, and I'm really all about it because I'm all about AI shit right now, right? This Mid-Journey thing, this stable diffusion, this ChatGPT. Oh my gosh, ChatGPT blows my
I haven't played with it
mind,
yet.
dude.
I haven't played with it
it's
yet.
so cool, dude. Guaranteed, if you've read any stuff on Go Fix Yourself, it's probably a little bit of ChatGPT help.
Yeah. I've got several friends using it, and
A little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah. There's those trade secrets.
It's great. So, I mean, I'm all about this, but I have seen, and I've seen that you've been pretty vocal about this too, is like, listen, there are artists who are scared about AI because it can mean the end of their, custom artwork, or because it can generate artwork just that looks just like it, but it's custom to whoever wants it.
Yeah.
So it could put us as designers, but also future as photographers, as videographers, as creatives, as artists, as writers. It could put us out of business, right?
Yeah.
But you've been kind of like, no, I'm gonna embrace this.
Yeah. Well, because it's not going anywhere.
I agree.
Right.
It's going to be in everything. AI is like the next internet.
Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be huge, and it's going to be in everything, and it's going to be second nature. Back in the day, people were like, email, what the hell's that?
Yeah.
People are saying that about AI
I've got
right
my
now.
robot for that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
The dial-up modem, all that
Oh,
stuff.
man.
But and it's taken off at a really fast pace too, because they're realizing all of the actual uses for it that are more than just creative. And one of the things that I learned that I didn't research it to vet it, but one of the reasons that the AI came about was actually for self-driving cars. They had to upload images
Right.
for them to be able to distinguish between a road sign and a pedestrian.
That would make sense because it was like Tesla got really, really big with the self-driving car.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, the AI stuff started being available to consumers.
Right.
And so, that tracks. So I'm not going to fact check it. I'm just going to say,
It
you're
made
right.
sense.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
it made sense.
Yeah, you're right.
So, and, being an artist, of course, I have those same trepidations that other people have, but after having actually used it and learned how to manipulate it and just kind of understand the whole thing, it's not as bad as everybody's making it out to be. And I think it's just because they don't quite get it. But I understand from outside, you're like, oh yeah, they're
fear. It's easy.
But they've said that about when
Everything.
when the camera was invented, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
we're gonna take people are gonna take pictures of their families, and the portrait artist is gonna be put out of business.
Yeah.
And so there's always fear about new technology, about it taking jobs and things, and but I just knowing how it works and how to work it, I just don't. I see it being more as a resource and a tool to the artist as opposed to competing with the
So
artist.
you're not afraid of, like, say, and I'm not giving anybody ideas out there, so don't get any ideas. But like, you're not afraid of people being like, "Hey, make an Alaskan pattern out of the Alaska."
7
I've
Alaskan
tried.
states.
I've tried.
You have, and you
Yeah.
just can't.
It doesn't know what the shape of the state of Alaska is.
Okay,
Right.
So you're safe. You're safe.
Hey,
For
that's one
now.
of the first things
For
you got to
now.
do, right? And it's going to learn, and it's
Yeah.
probably going to get that way. But right now, if you said, I want to create this really cool logo, and I want it to have these colors, and I want it to have this radial pattern, and I want to do this and that, good luck.
Interesting.
I think it's going to be a couple of years before it can actually do that. At least I'm hoping.
Fingers
It's
crossed.
it's great for conceptual imagery, but if you want specifics, like a lot of people do, I have enough clients
Right.
where they're like, I want this here, and I want the font here, and this
Right,
to do
right.
this and this and that. You can't do that with AI. At least not the stuff that I'm
I would say,
using.
but I did see Adobe just announce their new AI
Yep.
thingamajiggery.
Like Plasma, I think, is that what it
Yeah,
was? Something
sure.
like that.
And I was like, holy shit.
If Adobe's doing it,
this could put like my social media like graphics out of business. And I was like, cool. But that's funny because me and you were both like, that's sick. What's next? Right. We're kind of using this as like all right, man, like if times are changing, but like, let's not, instead of being like,
let's put a saddle on this motherfucker.
Yes,
Let's
I
ride
love
it,
that.
I want to, as an artist, I love art. I love beauty. I want to see more of it in the world.
Yeah.
As long as it's not stealing and everything, all the research that I've done and everything I've looked into, it's not stealing. You know, they talk about, it comes up with images and it has a signature on it, right?
Right.
That's how we know it's stealing from it. You can see the indication of somebody's signature that they stole it from. Well, no, it's as they're feeding images into AI to teach it like a child.
Yeah.
It's just like a child. If you see a kid's picture on the refrigerator, right, and he signs it Bobby, right?
He stole that from you, son of a...
How did Bobby know to put a signature on it? He saw it somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And so did AI. They've seen it on there. So they think, maybe I should put it on the imagery somewhere. And so when you're looking at it, it's not because it was somebody's signature that they blurred out.
It's just trying to be
AI
like
doesn't
a person.
work that way. It doesn't. It doesn't work that way. And that's the thing is you have to take out of your mind what you're thinking is sinister about it, and you need to remove that, and you need to understand a little bit more before you have objections.
Do you think the way I look at like AI or any kind of disruption technology is I kind of feel like the people that get scared are the people that are very comfortable where they are, or maybe are the leaders or people that have just been stagnant for a long time. Because the way I look at it is just like you're doing right now, you're educating us on this. I mean, there's so many routes, like even if AI was to come along and destroy an industry, there's room to tell people about it. There's room to tell people how to utilize it. Like there's just so many different aspects of it that people don't even think about. They're just like, I'm out of a job.
It's a tool.
Well, why couldn't
Like
you make
anything
YouTube
else.
videos about it? Why couldn't you do this and that? And it's like, it's people that are just so set in their ways are just, I mean, it's historical. People always get scared when somebody comes after their jobs.
Oh, yeah. What are you like personally excited about with like AI? Because I've seen a lot of your like Mid-Journey like graphics, and I'm like, oh, this guy's nailing down those prompts. Like you're getting those prompts down.
And so when I first started using Mid-Journey, you go into the newbie rooms and you
Actually, sorry, before we begin, let's even tell people who aren't even aware
What AI
we're jumping ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, well, I mean, because we know what it is. Let's be honest. But like, you know, maybe my
I'm
parents.
surprised you didn't stop me and be like, Kyle, it's artificial intelligence.
But like, okay, so tell someone really quick, brief overview of how to use Mid-Journey and what Mid-Journey is.
Okay, so Mid-Journey is a program that uses your words. So you type in words as descriptions to conjure up the imagery that you're looking for that you get to see. So you're kind of like a wizard, right? You're casting a spell by typing words, and it comes up with images. And sometimes it nails it on the first time. Sometimes it takes days and weeks. It just never quite gets to where you want it. And that's where one of my points about, taking over an artist job isn't going to happen.
Right.
I mean, I've tried to do things on Mid-Journey, and I still haven't been able to accomplish. Whereas if I, wanted to pay an artist to do it, I could have what I wanted and be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
In a lot quicker time and get exactly what I want. Mid-Journey just doesn't work that way. I can't speak for the other, Stable Diffusion and Dolly because I don't use them, but I've seen examples and they do work differently and they've got different tweaks that you can do. But I've personally found that the imagery that Mid-Journey creates is, for me as an artist, I really like the visual images more than the other programs.
Yeah. Cool.
So basically what it is, you're typing in descriptions of what you want to see, and sometimes you get things that you never in a million years or whatever would have thought of, and some of that shit is the coolest. It's just mind-blowing to me. I was immediately just in awe of what the images were coming up with. And so I'm in this newbie room, and I'm watching all these people, and you can see the prompts that they're using, and some of them are very simple. Like some of them are like, the creation of everything.
Yeah.
Obviously.
And, you get this really amazing imagery just by being super basic. But then you would see other people's prompts or descriptor words, and they would have paragraphs, lines and words and 80 words, 100 words, 200 words. And they were using words that I didn't know, but I was somewhat familiar with. They were saying like Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah.
Or, just certain descriptors. And I started writing them down. I was like, some of these are badass.
Yes.
And I can see what they're doing because I'm seeing the images that I like those same words are in those ones.
Yeah.
So you start playing with these keywords that you're like, okay, these are cool things. Photorealistic.
Yep.
8K, 32K, highly detailed, depth of field.
Yep.
You can get specific.
S1000, which is like stylized.
Aspect ratio.
One of my favorites that I saw, because I follow this guy on Instagram, and he, like, as a photographer, but he's like now posting like AI stuff that he comes up with, and they're just the glorious pictures on Midjourney. And one of the ones that he used was Corpuscular Rays. Have you seen that one yet? Corpuscular Rays. And so basically it was a
sounds disgusting.
Yeah.
yes, but what it is, I didn't know what this was, is when the sun shines through like the clouds, but it glows around the clouds, and then you see the rays. Like, that's what it is.
Crepuscular.
And so crepuscular, I think that's how you say it. Crepuscular Rays. And so if I ever needed a landscape Midjourney AI generated art, I always was putting Corpuscular Rays in there, because it just like pop those clouds.
I use dynamic cloud lighting.
And that sounds cool
get
too.
Really amazing imagery. Yeah, so I've found certain ones that kind of my go-tos. And it's interesting, and you can evoke all different kinds of styles. I recently started trying to blur the lines between like high resolution, like sci-fi, but then make it look like 3D fabrics and patterns. I could see where there's kind of like the water looks like photographic or digital painting, but then the mountains look like folded fabric.
Interesting.
There's one particular image that was stunning that I'll pull up on my phone.
Yeah, pull it up. Are you using this for your design work at all?
For inspiration. And I've used it a couple times because I've gotten good enough at it where I felt comfortable saying, okay, I can actually integrate this into part of my design work that I've used.
I love that. Yeah, because that was the most exciting part for me.
But it's not like I cut exactly what I,
Right.
You just
it's not a copy and paste.
There.
Yeah, I think that's it's
a tool.
There's a bunch of like different artwork that I've seen, like album artwork now, and I'm like, oh, Midjourney.
Yep.
Because they does kind of spit out the same stuff every once in a while.
Yep.
And so you can see the similar colors, or like a stained glass windows. You're like, okay, I understand what that looks like. All right. So for the people listening, oh man, this is really cool.
It's got that corpuscular rays over there.
Bing.
We'll try to describe it, but for the people watching, actually, maybe we won't show it to you, but we'll post it on Instagram. We're looking at this image, and it looks like it's almost like paper, made out of paper.
Yeah.
It's like a Alaskan landscape with water, rocks, and then there's like flowers in the foreground, and there's mountains in the background with the sun and clouds kind of coming up. But everything it looks like it's made of paper to a point. So like folded in specific parts. Did I do a good job to explain that?
Yeah, paper, construction paper, fabric, kind of all that stuff.
Yeah, it's dope.
So I'll have you, maybe Kyle, if you want to poke around, I've got a Midjourney folder on there where I have a bunch of images on there, and maybe just some of those are.
Can we post those then?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And it's funny because every once in a while, just because I have a dark side to me, I try and create the creepiest thing I can think of.
Oh, yeah.
That would keep you awake for weeks on end.
Dude,
like whenever you close your eyes.
Well, what's the prompt for something like that?
You name it, like nightmare. Right?
Kyle's inner thoughts.
yeah.
Jesus, oh my God.
Holy shit.
Yeah, so like, give me an example. So you're thinking like, hey, I'm going to create something real creepy. Because my only experience, and even Steven's played around with this a lot more, I play around with Chat GPT.
Yep.
Obviously for go fix yourself stuff.
I'll find a creepy one here.
Yeah.
That one's dope. That one's sick. I love the vibe. I feel like I'm about to watch a sci-fi movie.
That's the birth. That's called the birth of a city.
Yeah. Send me some of those. I want to post those.
Creation of the first city.
But what I was saying is like Chat GPT is like, you realize just how powerful it is, because like it's not only what you guys are talking about, more of like an artistic replacement. Oh, okay. Here we go. Here we go. Look,
here's the horror shit.
Yeah.
Just because I'm like,
that's cool.
I tend to do a lot of like celestial, like ethereal, like sci-fi kind of like just beautiful, like heaven type stuff.
Yeah.
But then there's always the opposite of that, right?
Well, I have to tell you about a movie.
The depths of hell. I have that in there. And that's all I typed was
Depths
depth
of
of
hell.
hell.
No.
So it looks like a
extra
church?
Not for
prompts?
that one.
Oh, okay. Not
for this one, I'll show you later because I was like, I'll just be basic. We'll just do the depths of hell.
Oh, these landscape ones are really cool. Okay, so we're an audio podcast first.
Yeah. But people with
You
theater.
guys gotta see this.
Yeah.
Oh, these are cool.
But speaking of creepy things like that, I gotta go off on a quick little tangent.
Sure,
I
sure.
just
Please
watched
do.
this
Please
movie
do.
because I saw it on TikTok, a clip of it, and I was like, this actually looks very scary. And then
Ex Machina.
no, great movie though.
Yeah, amazing.
It's
I have
called-
I have some Ex Machina pictures in there.
Yeah.
Really?
They were used. I used that as a
Ooh,
prompt.
These are cool. That's sick. That light. God,
And that- and
I'm
that-
sorry.
and
People,
that's-
I gotta
That's
stop.
more
I gotta
like
stop.
conjured from stuff I've seen in Alaska, right? That was
Yeah.
like, for me, this kind of image, something about that has always stuck in my head. And it was probably for this one time that I might have consumed something.
Something
And
legal.
nature-ish. And it just has always
Marijuana.
stuck with me. Sure.
Mushrooms.
Yeah, there you go.
There we
Yeah.
go.
The devil's
Let's
lettuce.
put a
Is
name
that
on
what
it,
you
right.
type in there for mid?
That's always the first prompt.
Yeah.
The devil's lettuce. But, and so if you didn't see it, this was the Mandalorian with...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That's
yeah.
the one. That's the one I saw recently,
Nice.
which is so cool because I love the green on the visor. And I'm like, as a filmmaker, I'm like, where's that green coming from? But you know what? It doesn't matter because it looks fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
He
dope.
was just on Nickelodeon, got some gack.
That's
There's
crazy.
The Ex Machina.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
sick. Anyway, so
Also, great movie to see.
yeah. So you were talking about a movie.
Yeah, so on TikTok, I see this clip of this guy riding a bike, right? And he sees a Sasquatch, right? And the Sasquatch chases him.
Rad.
And it looks so good. And I never see like Bigfoot movies or clips that I'm like, that looks realistic.
Cheeseball.
Or yeah, exactly. But I'm like, this one looks, and then I read the comments. They're like, it's on YouTube. It's called Exists and it's free. And so last night I watched it. And it was like made in 2017 or something like that. And it's a found footage horror movie of
Like
this.
Blair Witch kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
you
it's,
lost me there, man.
I agree. I hate those.
Yeah.
But I watched this one. Not great, but better than expected. Because have you ever seen any Bigfoot movies?
Yeah.
Besides
I have.
Harry and the
Yeah.
Hendersons.
Yes,
Oh.
like a scary one.
Not that that's bad. I'm just
No,
saying.
that's a great one.
More of a horror vibe.
That's
In
that's
this one, I thought
emotional.
they did very good. I was like, for a
I'm
free.
surprised they haven't made more Bigfoot movies.
Right.
Like serious ones.
Well,
that
I did
are
look
like-
it up, and there is like about 27.
But like
of them.
ones
But-
that have hit like mainstream.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
None.
You
None.
know, like
And I'm
Michael Mann or, you know.
Yeah.
so-
yeah.
And why is that?
Transformers.
What are they trying to hide?
Right.
You know?
Well,
Yeah.
that's for a different podcast.
Yeah.
So me and my buddies, we joke about it because there are podcasts, Bigfoot podcasts that exist, and people are very serious about it. And
Oh,
they
yes.
hold their meetings at the building behind the Cracker Barrel somewhere in the Midwest, and
Those,
they're very serious about it. And they've claimed to have seen it, and
Are you a Bigfoot believer?
I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
I haven't spent enough time to think
Do
about
you
it.
care?
But
I guess that's
not enough to
Yeah.
to
I will say this.
to formulate a definite
Now
opinion.
we're gonna go on a Bigfoot tangent because I don't know, but I do know I was a PA on this TV show that came up here, Alaska Daily, as we all know, and there was the VFX supervisor. I got to work with a VFX team for like 4 days, right? It was cool. It was a cool gig, and so I got to know this guy, and he's like, I've worked on The Last Indiana Jones, I worked on War of the Worlds, so I got to know this guy, and he's like, dude, I was like VFX supervisor. He's like, here's a pic of me and Steven Spielberg, and Steven Spielberg is like my idol, so I was
Yeah.
like, holy shit, and anyway,
He
so
was grooming you.
he's like.
He was straight.
Fuck, I don't know if I like that term.
You just totally told
Hey,
us that.
if you get to meet Steven Spielberg
Yeah.
as a
Look
result
at all
of
these
grooming,
pictures
Yeah.
with me and
Not
cool
bad.
people.
Anyway, it's all badly
Yeah,
photoshopped.
Yeah.
It's just like his head next to. Okay, anyway, no, it was real.
Yeah, I bet.
Anyway, so he started. We go to lunch at Moose's Tooth with the VFX team, and so I'm like, tell me more. I want to know more about Vancouver, because he was living in Vancouver. Tell me more about Hollywood. And so he's like, oh well, he's like, I don't care about all of that. He's like, what I do care about is Bigfoot. And I'm like, oh really? I was like, well, let's talk about that shit. He's like, so he goes on to tell me that him and his friend have a Bigfoot YouTube channel. And I couldn't tell what it is offhand, but I can find out for it. And so he's like, so he goes through and he's like, we do episodes looking for Bigfoot, because this is my backyard. He's like, I live on, so many acres, national park or whatever. And he's like, all right, let me show you something real creepy. And so he goes to a game camera album on his iPhone and he flips around. He's like, yes. So, we have this game camera, right? He's flipping photos. And he's like, we have this game camera. Most of the time it doesn't pick up much bears. And he's like, and he flips a little bit more and he flips to this one picture. And he's like, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more before I even show you this picture. He's like, so this game camera is like 8 feet high and it's looking straight, right? And he's like, most of the time, if we see stuff, it's like far in the distance. We can see the bear, going down or whatever. And then he's like, let me show you this thing. So he shows me this picture and it's a fucking like human figure staring straight into the camera.
How close?
Damn close. Like probably 5 feet, 6 feet away. So, I mean, it's like eyes and eyes with the camera. Now, you can't see the eyes, just a blob.
It's glowing red.
Yeah. Fucking black eyes. But it was like this, it was black and white. It was all white. And it was like this human, like, 2 legs, 2 arms.
It was white.
And then it was
a Yeti, obviously.
Maybe. Definitely like, yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, maybe they're both the same thing. Oh, shit.
Right, maybe.
But anyway, it was just like, I'm like, yeah,
technically
kind of,
that's a subspecies, and we could get into that.
Yeah. But anyway, I was just kind of blown away because it was like I was like staring face to face, and I was like, yeah, I don't know how to like, I don't know what that is. So it was just kind of interesting. So maybe there's Bigfoot, maybe there's not.
That was now we're in the age again, thanks to AI. Fucking AI.
Yeah.
You don't know what's real anymore.
And honestly,
maybe he's a visual.
I know.
I didn't know why I didn't think about that first.
Yep, your mistake. The way I look at it is, anytime I see a game camera, I'm instinctually wanting to put on some sort of suit and run in front of
it. Strike that pose.
Yeah, like I will make you famous. Like, I mean, so I would get my stepladder out, stand up on the front of the game camera. And I'm just saying, like 9 times out of 10, that's got to be what it is. But
his gears have been grinding this whole time.
Watch out for that.
Anyway, let's get back on track. AI, because I'm obsessed with this topic right now.
Depth of hell.
He's showing us the depths of hell picture. Let me
Man, a lot of these are looking very anatomically.
Diablo. They're also Diablo. Oh, you talking about a vagina?
Yeah. I mean,
you said it, not me.
Yeah. I mean,
well,
like,
he said it.
Like,
I just said anatomically,
We'll show the camera here.
So yeah, when I'm posting stuff on, Facebook and saying, I make sure to say, hey, this is stuff that I've been playing around with, these concepts that are AI generated. Mm-hmm. Last thing I want is for somebody to think that I'm sitting behind, that I'm creating this on, Procreate or on Photoshop. Like that's not what I'm doing here.
But people are.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
People
and those are the people that are freaking out.
I know. But I'm also like, I'm stoked about this AI stuff. I'm stoked about, seeing other artists like yourself just being excited about the tool, excited about the possibilities of what to create. I love that you're using it for inspiration, right? You might not be implementing it into your clothes yet, but I mean, why not soon? Like, that's cool. But like, I think that you're using for inspiration, being like, and I think that's what a lot of people are doing. For example, I'm putting in some stuff in my videos, or I'm like, what's a good lighting situation for this video, or what's a good blocking situation for actors, right? I mean, there's endless possibilities of what you can do with this software, and so it is kind of cool to see you're using it for fun.
Well, it's a tool. It's no different than me. Before maybe I was. To get inspiration, right? You get on the internet and you start looking at imagery, and you're basically cataloging. As an artist, that's what you do. Artists have been copying other artists in the sense that how do you learn from other artists? You copy the great ones, and I mean, just living in Alaska, I get my inspiration by just walking outside the door, and using that to conjure up some of my designs. And it's really no different. It's kind of putting it in all in one place. You're learning how to manipulate it. It's no different than typing in Google and conjuring up images from Google that have already been posted for the general public to see. It's not like I'm hacking private artists' website and looking at images that they don't want anybody else to see. And then that's kind of the thing with AI, is they're not doing that, and they're still a machine, and they're only going based on the parameters that they've been given and the images that they've been shown, but they don't steal stuff that is proprietary that it isn't for public use. I don't know all the terminology, but just based on watching some YouTubes and things, it's not as cry wolf and fire that everybody's talking about. It's already happening. It's just kind of being used as a way to get people worked up. But people were already doing it. Again, I was already going on Google and typing in something when I was trying to get inspiration or reference for
100%.
a bear walking in a forest.
That's why Pinterest and design inspiration and Google Images search, like that's why they exist. Now we have like a tool that's just so much better, and it can actually show us what we exactly want to see to use inspiration from or to grab it from. Now, I think it's weird how like, I think it was like last year, someone entered in an AI generated art with an art like festival, whatever.
Yeah. State fair.
It was state fair, yes.
Yeah, Colorado.
It was a competition. And basically the AI generated art won.
Yeah.
And then it came out, and it was like a big hoopla. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And so it was like a big thing. And I'm like, well, okay, well, first off, like, I think it should be its own category.
100%.
But
that's something I believe as well.
Yeah. But also I'm like, he did or she did put in those parameters. So it is a specific artwork towards that person that no one else can make.
Yeah.
And there is something unique about that.
There is. And so kind of going back to the whole prompt and creating imagery, you can type in the exact same words in the exact same order again after they've given you your images based on your first try, and you can get all new images.
Yeah.
The algorithms and the billions of images that it can pull from is always going to generate something new.
Mm-hmm.
And it's damn near, I don't even think it's possible to duplicate an image. If I said, hey, here's an image I created on Midjourney, I want you to create the same image, and I'm going to give you the exact same prompts, and you can try and duplicate it. You won't be able to.
Yeah.
Because what it does is in Midjourney, it generates 4 images. And then of those 4 images, you could say, I don't like any of those. And you cut and paste and just have it start again. Or you can say, that's kind of close. Let's do a variation of 2 and 4. And then you get that. And then maybe you tweak that and you do a variation of that. And you can kind of go down this rabbit hole of modifying and adjusting your image until you get to where you want. And that might be a week later. It might be 100 attempts later. Like, it's not just boom. I mean, sure, I typed in depths of hell and came up with a cool image, and I could have stopped there. But, if you're trying to create something specific, especially if it's for a client or something, I mean, it's really difficult to arrive on that. And I watched a couple YouTubes where there was these really, like a talented artist studio where they kind of did that. They said, hey, this is the image that we're going for. I'm going to give this to my team and see what they come up with, and then I'll give them a starting image, and then I'm going to use that same starting image because that's another way you can do it. You can actually upload images and then have AI start to manipulate your starting image if you want. Mm-hmm. And yeah, hands down, the artists were, I thought, a lot better. I mean, sure, they came up with really cool images with AI, but it really wasn't, because you're talking about, I want this guy to be riding a dragon with a castle in the background, and he's like carrying an artist's pencil, right? Well, the images comes up, it's the dragon, but the dragon's actually a pencil. It's kind of like your dreams where you're trying to explain it, and the images that come up, you're like, that doesn't make any sense at all.
It's not exact. And then like sometimes like as a, perfectionist, I'm like, the lines aren't as clean as I'd want. But I mean, we're in the first stage of this, technology. I think that's the cool thing because it's like, it's only going to get better from here. And even some of the stuff that I've just seen you show, I was like, dude, when I was paying for Midjourney, I was like, that's 10 times better than what I was coming up with. Like the shit that I was coming up with, I was like I would put like floating pirate ship in crepuscular ray clouds.
Oh boy.
I gotta write that.
I mean, it came up with some cool shit, but the fucking pirate ship was all like fucking mangled and jangled.
Right.
But it was a really cool tool because like I have a bunch of friends who write like novels or who are writing novels, and I was like, you got to check this out, like and so I would go to their house and I'd be like, what's something in your book that you want to see? And then so one of the ones was like a kingdom with like gardens on the roofs, and something like that. It was, and then so I put this in, and they give me descriptors. Put it in, put all my normal like S1000 or whatever, and 16:9. So I put all this stuff in, and when it came out, they were like, "Oh my gosh, that's it." That's what I've been visualizing in my head, and it gives them a tool to like look at and reference when they like want to bring up more descriptors when they're writing their book or whatever. So it's just, I love it. I think it's a cool tool. I can't wait for more stuff. I can't wait to see more stuff of yours. Maybe this is your new AI book.
Right.
And it's like you already got it in with Costco.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, this is
Joel Loosli. you remember me.
Oh, you don't work there anymore? Oh, shit. Well,
Right.
you pass me off to someone again. No, anyway, I think it's really cool. And I'm kind of obsessed with AI. Like I said, me and Kyle, we were sending some of our descriptions, we put them through ChatGPT, and it just kind of helps the grammar. But it also like kind of helps infuse a little bit more of like, oh, actually, yeah, I guess that sentence
There's another
fleshed it out
really
a little
good
bit
word
more.
for great.
Yes, exactly. And it's not just like, I don't know, cookie cutter, bullshit. It's
But see,
like
you could have done
add
that.
some of that
like,
stuff.
Okay, I have spell check, right? That's a tool, and then you're using a thesaurus, right, and all these things. But it's like all these in one.
Grammarly.
Yeah.
So,
I
and that's
love
kind of what AI is all about. It's about kind of shortcutting, and they're saying, freeing up your time to do other things.
Sure.
Like one of the applications that I was reading about, or watching about, is that a thing now?
Yes.
Where, in the medical field, where it's able to, you input all the information into like a 3D field, and it's able to adjust the molecules or do things with it where, the scientists would have to do that kind of more on a manual basis, and it was taking them forever. But this thing could do, millions of calculations, in a second. And it was like, I think it was called folding proteins, and to find out, okay, now that will work for this medication because it'll work with this particular protein in this cell. And that's the kind of cool stuff that I think is get a lot of people to be like, oh, I guess AI isn't the devil.
Yeah. I agree.
Saved my grandmother's life, or my son's life, or something.
Yeah.
AI surgery. When are you going to sign up for that?
Nanobots. you know?
Well, I mean, I guess we
in.
have.
You know what? Fucking, if we're in, I'm in all the way.
I don't want to be on the trial run.
No,
to be honest.
that's
Right,
not
but
me.
I mean, I'm sure people are like,
If I'm on
penicillin, I don't know
If
about
I'm on
that.
my deathbed,
true,
though,
that's true.
if I'm on my deathbed,
Well,
and
that's
the
moldy
doctor,
bread.
the
Yeah.
doctor comes
I'm
over
not buying
and
it.
the doctor
Let's say there's a AI surgeon that does vasectomies. Okay. And so you're the first guy to try it. You signing up? I'm just saying. That's where I'm like,
Does he have a good AI doctor name?
That's such a shitty.
Because I feel like the name at that point is
Yeah.
going to decide whether or not,
How much am I getting paid?
Because he's like,
you're paying to do
I'm
it.
paying?
Yes.
Victor vasectomy.
No. That's not how it
Yeah.
works. No, for the first couple, the people are getting paid.
I don't know.
That's how it's gonna work. So I mean, if I'm getting paid a lot of money, and I'm already wanting like to have no kids, and like the doctor's gonna be right there watching, making sure everything's good.
I mean, I guess the